She moved to Ridgewood Glen for a fresh start. It was the kind of town people trust. Low crime, friendly neighbors, clean streets. But within weeks, something changed. Not violence, not threats, not even arguments, just small things. Conversations that stopped when she entered a room. Mail that went missing. A committee that monitored stability. And women who seemed to leave without saying goodbye. No police reports, no missing posters, no evidence of wrongdoing. Just patterns. 14 women in 10 years. All single, all new to town. All gone quietly. Then the town made one mistake. She didn't leave. And when she stayed long enough to follow the money, she discovered something far worse than crime. A system, one designed not to hurt people, but to make existing unbearable, because the most dangerous places don't force you out. They make you believe it was your idea to go. Welcome to Cold Case Diaries. The town of Ridgewood Glen was known for two things: its safety and its silence. People moved there when they wanted to slow down, raise families, escape city noise, forget old lives. Crime statistics were proudly displayed on the town's website. No murders in 30 years, no kidnappings, no scandals anyone talked about. Yet over the last decade, 14 women had left Ridgewood Glen under similar circumstances. Not missing, not reported, just gone. When Lena Brooks arrived in town, she wasn't looking for trouble. She was 32, recently divorced, and had taken a job as an administrative coordinator at the local medical center. Ridgewood Glen felt safe. Predictable, almost comforting. Her apartment was small but spotless. Neighbors smiled. The landlord welcomed her with a folder labeled Community Guidelines. "Everyone here looks out for each other," he said. For the first 3 months, nothing felt wrong. Then small things began to change. Her work schedule shifted without explanation. Coworkers stopped inviting her to lunch. Her mail arrived late or not at all. When she asked questions, the answers were polite but vague. Probably just a mix-up. Nothing personal. These things happen. Lena brushed it off, until the notes started appearing. Not threatening, not angry, just concerned. One on her windshield: "You seem stressed lately." Another slipped under her door: "This town can be overwhelming for some people." She laughed them off. Someone being overly friendly, she assumed, but then her landlord called. "We've received a few concerns," he said carefully. "Nothing serious, just about your adjustment." Adjustment to what? That night, Lena searched online. Ridgewood Glen, former residents, relocations. She found a pattern no one else seemed to notice. Women new to town, single or recently separated. Most stayed less than a year. They didn't post goodbye messages. They didn't complain publicly. They just vanished from the town's digital footprint. Deleted accounts, closed numbers, new lives elsewhere. The next morning, Lena noticed something that changed everything. Her name typed neatly on a clipboard at the front desk of her workplace. Beside it, a column labeled status. Her status had been updated, from new hire to unsettled. And at the bottom of the page, a handwritten note: "Monitor." Lena realized then that Ridgewood Glen didn't wait for problems to happen. It anticipated them. And once you were labeled, the town never forgot. Lena didn't confront anyone about the clipboard. She understood instinctively that questions were noticed here. Instead, she began paying attention. At work, she watched how decisions were made. Meetings ended before discussions started. Policies appeared fully formed, as if agreed upon elsewhere. When she asked who approved changes, the answer was always the same: the committee. No names, no office, no faces, just the committee. One afternoon, Lena stayed late, pretending to organize files. When the building emptied, she followed a hallway she had never used before, one marked "Authorized Personnel Only." At the end was a small conference room. Inside, the lights were on, 5 chairs, 4 occupied. She wasn't invited in. She wasn't stopped either. The people inside spoke in low, measured voices. They discussed budgets, staffing, neighborhood feedback, ordinary topics. But then Lena heard something that made her freeze. "Subject LB," one of them said. Adjustment period exceeded expectations. Lena realized they were talking about her. "She's still integrating," another voice replied. "But indicators suggest resistance." Resistance to what? "She hasn't initiated exit behaviors," a third said calmly. "No transfer requests, no lease inquiries." The language was clinical, detached, like they were observing data, not a person. Lena stepped back quietly. That night, she received an email from Human Resources. "We'd like to schedule a wellness check-in." No accusation, no complaint, just concern. The meeting took place in a bright room filled with plants and soft music. Two women sat across from her, smiling warmly. "How are you adjusting?" One asked. "Do you feel supported?" The other added. Lena answered carefully. "I feel fine." They nodded, taking notes. "What do you do outside of work? Do you have family nearby? Anyone you talk to when you're stressed?" By the end, Lena felt like she had volunteered information she didn't remember giving. As she left, she noticed a bulletin board in the hallway. Photos of smiling residents, community leaders, volunteers. At the center was a heading, Stability Committee, and beneath it, smaller text, Ensuring Harmony Through Early Intervention. Lena took a photo with her phone. That was a mistake. Within an hour, her phone stopped receiving calls. By evening, her social media accounts were locked, and when she returned home, her neighbor who had waved to her every morning closed her door quickly. Lena understood then. The committee didn't punish, it redirected, and the next step was always the same. Make staying feel harder than leaving. She lay awake that night listening to the silence of Ridgewood Glen, realizing she had become a case study, not because she was dangerous, but because she was independent.
Lena didn't notice the pressure at first because it arrived disguised as politeness. The morning after the wellness meeting, her alarm didn't go off. When she woke in a panic and checked her phone, it showed the correct time but no missed alerts. She blamed a software glitch and rushed to work already unsettled. At the medical center, her access card failed twice before unlocking. The receptionist smiled apologetically and said the system had been updated overnight. Lena nodded, pretending not to feel the eyes on her as she walked past. Her desk had been moved, not far, just a few feet closer to the hallway, where conversations passed by but never lingered. Her old chair was gone, replaced with a slightly lower one that made her desk feel unfamiliar. Small things. Easily dismissible. By lunchtime, she realized no one had spoken to her directly all day. Coworkers still talked, just not to her. Conversations paused when she approached. Lunch invitations evaporated. When Lena sat alone in the break room, the television volume was turned up louder than usual, filling the space so silence couldn't expose what was happening. That afternoon, an email arrived. "Due to recent feedback, we are temporarily adjusting your responsibilities." No explanation of the feedback. No details about who provided it. Her role was reduced. Not officially demoted, just reassigned to tasks that kept her busy but invisible. That evening, Lena returned home to find a printed notice taped neatly to her door. Reminder, quiet hours begin at 9 p.m. She checked the time. 6:30 p.m. She hadn't made noise. She hadn't even turned on the television. Inside her apartment, she noticed the heating felt weaker. The landlord explained it was part of an energy efficiency test. When Lena asked how long it would last, he shrugged. "These things usually resolve themselves," he said. Resolve. That word followed her everywhere. Over the next week, the pressure became harder to ignore. Her internet slowed to a crawl at night. Packages showed as delivered but never arrived. A note appeared on her car about improper parking, though she was parked within the lines. The ticket was later dismissed, but the message had been sent. When Lena tried to talk to someone about it, responses came carefully worded. "I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. You don't want to overthink these things. This town just works differently." One evening, she overheard two neighbors speaking outside her window. "She's not adapting," one said quietly. "They never do," the other replied. Lena's chest tightened. She started keeping note states, times, patterns. But even that felt dangerous. She stopped writing names, using initials instead. She hid the notebook behind cleaning supplies, knowing instinctively that privacy here was conditional. The committee didn't accuse. It suggested. Her manager suggested she might be happier somewhere else. Coworker suggested a nearby town with more people like her. Even the barista suggested a new cafe 2 towns over. Leaving was framed as kindness. One night, Lena found a folded pamphlet slipped under her door. Relocation resources for transitional residents. Inside were listings for apartments outside Ridgewood Glen, job postings in neighboring counties, bus schedules, no note, no signature, just options. The next morning, Lena woke to discover her name had been removed from the community volunteer board in the lobby. Her photo was gone. In its place was a blank space that made her absence feel intentional. She checked the town website. Her name no longer appeared in the employee directory. She still worked there, but digitally, she was already fading. Lena tried calling her sister. The call dropped twice before connecting. When she mentioned what was happening, her sister laughed nervously. "Maybe you're just stressed," she said. "You always overanalyze." The doubt crept in immediately. It was the most effective part, not fear, confusion. When Lena returned home that evening, her door was unlocked. Nothing was missing, nothing disturbed, except her notebook. In its place, on the kitchen counter, sat a single envelope. Inside was a printed message. "This town doesn't hurt people. It helps them move on." Her hands shook as she read it again and again. That night, she slept fully dressed, lights on, listening for sounds that never came. The town didn't need to scare her. It needed her tired. By the 10th day, Lena understood the endgame. Staying meant friction in every moment. Every task required effort. Every interaction drained her, leaving promised relief, peace. She stood at her window watching the streetlights flicker on, realizing how many women before her must have stood in the same place, convincing themselves that leaving was their decision. That was when she decided something the committee hadn't predicted. She stopped reacting. She stopped adjusting. She stopped apologizing. And instead she waited. Because systems like Ridgewood Glen relied on one thing above all else: movement. And Lena intended to become very still.
Lena's refusal to leave created a problem the town had not planned for. Ridgewood Glen was designed to respond to movement applications submitted, leases broken, resignation letters filed. The system anticipated compliance, not stillness. Lena didn't protest. She didn't accuse. She didn't escalate. She simply stayed. Days passed, then weeks. The pressure continued, but something subtle shifted. The timing became uneven. Notices arrived late. Emails contradicted one another. A wellness appointment was scheduled, then quietly canceled. The committee, whatever it truly was, had lost its rhythm. Lena noticed it first, in the smallest detail. Her access card worked every time. No delays, no errors. At work, her manager avoided eye contact entirely now. Coworkers no longer whispered when she entered rooms. Instead, they looked uncertain, as if unsure how to behave around someone who hadn't followed the script. One afternoon, Lena was asked to attend a voluntary discussion in a building she hadn't been inside before, a municipal annex near the edge of town. The room was plain. No plants, no soft music, just a table and 2 chairs. This time, no smiles. "We're concerned about your well-being," the man across from her said. His voice was calm, practiced, tired. "I appreciate the concern," Lena replied, "but I'm fine." He nodded slowly. "Most people who stay say that," he said. It was the first honest sentence anyone had spoken to her. Lena leaned forward. "How many people stay?" The man hesitated. "Just long enough. Very few." That was the mistake, because Lena had already learned something important about Ridgewood Glen. Truth slipped through pauses. She began requesting records, not accusations requests. Publicly available documents, zoning changes, trust ownerships, committee charters. Every request was legal, mundane, tedious, and impossible to refuse without creating a paper trail. The town responded poorly. Files arrived incomplete. Dates were redacted inconsistently. Names were missing where they shouldn't have been. Lena started mapping the gaps, realizing they formed patterns, decisions made by the same small group of people, always framed as community protection. Then she found it, a relocation assistance fund, quietly maintained, quietly replenished. Money allocated not to help people settle but to help them leave. Housing stipends, job placement services, legal fees for expedited lease terminations, everything structured to remove friction from exit, while increasing friction for staying. Ridgewood Glen wasn't forcing women out, it was subsidizing disappearance. Lena cross-referenced the fund with employment records. 14 names matched. 14 women who had chosen to relocate. The system was elegant, efficient, and invisible. That night, Lena returned home to find the envelope waiting for her. No warning this time, just an offer. Inside was a check, more money than she made in 6 months. Attached was a printed message. You've proven resilient. We respect that. This is not a punishment. This is a transition. For the first time since arriving in Ridgewood Glen, Lena felt something sharper than fear. Anger. Not loud. Not explosive. Focused. She realized then why the committee had never threatened her. Threats create witnesses. Offers create silence. Lena didn't cash the check. She scanned it. She photographed it. She copied everything. The next day, she sent a single email to a journalist in a neighboring city who specialized in community displacement stories. She didn't accuse. She didn't dramatize. She attached documents, patterns, numbers, and one sentence. This town doesn't make people disappear. It makes leaving easier than existing. The response came within hours. I'd like to talk. That was when Ridgewood Glen panicked. The pressure returned, but clumsier now. A notice from the landlord arrived, demanding immediate inspection. HR suddenly required documentation that had never been requested before. The committee scheduled another meeting. Too fast, too late, Lena attended the meeting anyway. This time, all 5 chairs were occupied. They spoke carefully, avoided names, avoided responsibility. You don't understand the balance we maintain, one said. Some people destabilize communities, another added. Lena listened quietly. Then she stood. You're not protecting the town, she said. You're protecting yourselves. Silence. She placed copies of the documents on the table. The fund, the patterns, the exits you paid for. One of them finally looked afraid. Not because of what she knew, but because she hadn't left. When Lena walked out of the building, the town felt different. Still quiet, still polite, but cracked, because systems like Ridgewood Glen depended on invisibility, and Lena had made them visible. The story of Ridgewood Glen did not end with sirens. There were no arrests that night, no dramatic confrontations, no crowds gathered in the streets. Towns like Ridgewood Glen rarely collapse loudly. They erode quietly. The journalist arrived 3 days later, not with cameras, but with questions. Carefully phrased, the kind that forced answers without raising defenses. Meetings were scheduled, then rescheduled, then canceled. Within a week, the first article was published. It didn't accuse anyone of crimes. It didn't use words like conspiracy or corruption. It simply described a system, how voluntary relocation had been funded, coordinated, and normalized. How patterns formed. How absence became policy. The town council released a statement calling the claims misleading. Interpretations of community support initiatives. But something had changed. People started talking. Former residents recognized themselves in the story. Some reached out anonymously. Others publicly confirmed details they had never spoken about before. Each voice was small on its own. Together, they were undeniable. The committee dissolved quietly. No announcement, no explanation. Their names disappeared from boards and newsletters, replaced with vague promises of restructuring. The relocation fund was suspended pending review. Nothing illegal was ever proven. That was the most unsettling part. Ridgewood Glen had operated entirely within the law, and yet lives had been redirected, identities erased, choices shaped until they no longer felt like choices at all. Lena stayed, not because it was easy, but because leaving would have completed the story the town wanted. Her work hours returned to normal. The pressure lifted slowly, unevenly. Some neighbors avoided her. Others offered awkward apologies, claiming they hadn't known. That, too, was true. Systems like Ridgewood Glen didn't require villains, just participation. Months later, Lena stood in the same apartment she had once felt trapped in. The town was quieter now, with silence, but with uncertainty. The certainty that had protected it was gone. She never became a hero. There were no awards, no interviews under bright lights. Just a footnote in a long-form article and a collection of archived files that would someday be cited in research about nonviolent displacement. But the women stopped disappearing. That was how Lena measured success. On her last night before renewing her lease, Lena walked through town as the street lights flickered on. She passed houses that looked the same as ever, well kept, orderly, peaceful, and she understood something her father, and the women before her, had learned too late. The most dangerous systems are not built on force. They are built on comfort. And they survive because people mistake silence for safety. Ridgewood Glen would never be the same, and neither would Lena, because once you see how a town erases people without touching them, you never stop seeing it.